Hey, welcome to the Yellow Chair, episode number 10. Why only 1 to 5% of people are able to apply success principles successfully. And that's ironic. They're success principles. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Yellow Chair podcast with X, where we deep dive into the stories that drive our lives. First, let me say it's not you. It's not me. It's not them. It's the success principles and how we think about them. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a step back and think about what a principle is first and foremost. A principle is something that is right and true. Always, every time. You can count on it being this way every single time. So we think about it this way, physical principles, right? Physical principles, E equals MC squared. Pretty much all day, every day. Right? Water, H2O, 1 oxygen, 2 hydrogen atoms every day, all day. A circle, the circumference equals what? 2 pi r. I think that's right? 2 pi r? Something like that. The point is, there's a formula, there's a principle, there's an idea, and it's right every single time. Past, present, and future, it's always the same. But when we come to human life and the things that mandate and are part of our fabric, right? The things that drive us, it's not so black and white. When we're looking at our physical world, it's defined by extremes, very concrete things that have formed into these things that we can measure, right? Concretely. Like I said, E equals MC squared, et cetera, right? But our life is nuanced. There's context. There's a messy middle, as one of my client says. Life is messy, and we live in this middle space, and there is this grayness that goes with being human. And that's why success principles fail the greater majority of the time, because it's not the principles of and to themselves. And it's not even that we apply them imperfectly. The challenge is that we don't think of the context of who we are and what we want and what's on our table in applying those principles. Let's break this down, because this can be a little bit heady. We all know about the success principle of hard work. You got to hustle, you got to grind, you got to push it. But as true as that principle is, and it seems inarguable, it's hard to understand the context of so many other questions that come with that, or should. Where do you work hard? I need to work hard here, but maybe you need to work hard there. And what does it mean to work hard? Is it meaning working hard until you pass out? Or does it mean putting in long hours? Do you go with intensity, or do you go with consistency? Like what? How do you really define that? And that's that messy gray area that success principles do not of and to themselves help us to map out. We have to understand how to apply those principles in our life. In other words, we need strategy. So success principles require us to apply strategy, which is a plan of action or a policy designed to achieve a major overall aim. Basically a battle plan, which you absolutely have to understand a few things. What assets are under your control? What are you trying to accomplish? Right? What's the environment look like? Who are the players in this game? All of that goes into a strategy where you then leverage principles to help you win the game. In other words, context always matters in our life. But so many of us, we go to the success principle, the guru, the person who's been there and done that, and we take their advice wholesale. Boom. This is what it is. This is what it takes. But we don't put ourselves in the center of that game. And we measure ourselves as if we're less than, because when we go out into the world and apply that, what happens? We fall down. And it's just because we didn't create strategy that puts us in the middle of that game, where we have what one of my clients, who's the connection guru, she says, self-awareness is everything. You have to be self-aware. That's the key. Because any success principle that doesn't put you in the center of it, where you can weigh, measure, and adapt it to your life, your conditions, it's just dogma. And life isn't lived through dogma or the extremes of a thing like the physical world. Our world is governed by this gray, messy area. And that's okay. Because once we understand that and we embrace it, we become far more adept at being able to apply principles to our messy grayness, if you know what I mean. I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I violated this rule. My wife, as I told you, she's on this mission to lose some weight, and I've been helping her, and we've been having good fun doing it, getting up in the morning at 5 a.m, going walking, and then we do something in the evening with some HIIT, some high intensity interval training, et cetera, so forth, right? I have a very simple, basic plan that I put forward. So my wife comes to me, she says, okay, after work, she comes in, she's like, okay, all right, what's on the schedule for today? And I'm a little bit frustrated because I'm busy, and I'm like, it's the same thing we did yesterday. The blueprint didn't change. Like I told you yesterday, it's the same thing. We walk and then you do something high intensity in the evening. It's not rocket science. And she looked at me like, all right. Right. Like she didn't say like, you asshole, but I felt it afterwards like, damn, I messed up. And here's why. It's not that the success principle or the blueprint that I gave her was wrong. She should be able to do the same thing in the same way every single day and be just fine. That's what I do. My wife needs variety. She needs something to feed. She needs something to change and shift and adapt and flex, because her doing the same things in the same way every single day is like chewing glass. And I applied my success principle, which is true, to her world. And it's a very difficult thing to fit. It's a puzzle piece that just doesn't fit her world. And as her coach in this particular area, I dropped the ball. I didn't understand context. Right? She requires that. I didn't deliver. And we do this in our own life with all of these success principles and these guidelines and we read 1,000 books. And we wonder why we're not leveraging that into success, because we are not being very real about who we are, what we need, and how that contextually fits our life. And that is fundamentally key. My dad used to tell me all the time, wherever you go, there you go. I used to hate when he said that shit. It was like, huh? What does that mean? But I get it now. You can't remove you from the equation. So the more self-aware and connected and in tune to your proclivities, your patterns, the things that drive you and move you, the better you are able to apply these principles in very nuanced ways to your life, meaning you are bending them and then adapting them and utilizing them in a way that serves you and empowers you and doesn't trap you into something that you're not. But that requires a high degree of self-awareness and introspection, understanding of where you're going, what assets you have or resources you have, the gaps. In other words, you have to really understand your world. And this isn't a passive game. I'll give you another example. Well, one of my mentors right now is David Melser. I love David Melser. One day I would love to have him on this podcast and all the other things I've planned in terms of having him be a part of my life. Everything he says, in my opinion, is gold. So if you don't know who David Melser is and you're not checking him out, please do so. But one of the things he talks about is this idea of radical humility. And if he could go back and tell his younger self something, it would be radically humble, ask for help. And that principle, it's inarguable, right? Go ask for help. Damn, come on. That makes sense. Shorten the learning curve. But when I think about that in the context of my younger self in my life, that advice taken at face value may not have been the best advice. Because when I looked to the left and to the right of me, there was no one to ask for help. And when I did reach out to ask for help, all I heard was, nah, you got it. Or empty promises were never fulfilled. Time and time again, I learned through experience that the only person I could rely on was myself. So if I would have took that principle wholeheartedly and thinking that my success depended upon being radically humble and asking others for help, I would not be here today. I would not. But how do you reconcile the idea of a principle being factually true, or at least as concretely true as we can make it in the realm of human endeavors, and say that in my life, it didn't apply? That's not the case. Just like in the physical world, the principles that apply and seem to be true time and time again, there is an application in our life if we can contextualize it to our world. Because I didn't have anybody else to ask for help, but who could ask for help? Myself. So I developed the most tight, connected relationship with myself, almost an alter ego, where I would have conversations with myself. I would talk to myself. I would ask myself. I would jump into the heads of others who may not be there physically to help me and ask what would they do. There was a rapid feedback loop of asking for help, finding the gap, figuring out a way to make things better, right? That was my modus operandi. I lived that principle, but in a very contextualized, nuanced way. And that's what made me who I am today. It isn't the idea of actually pulling myself up without anybody else. It was really about this deep, enduring relationship with self where I could really deep dive into any idea or circumstance and figure it out and play it back and forth, two sides of the table, 360 degrees, trying to look at it and understand it. And that's why I'm here doing this damn podcast today. Because of the tens of thousands of hours spent in my head having that relationship of asking for help. The point I'm trying to make is that wholesale advice is cheap. It's cheap. So you got to be careful about taking it and just applying it to your life. Because what we know about anything that we buy at wholesale, you have to first process it, cut it up, repackage it, rebrand it, and make it usable at a retail level. Right? You're buying it for cheap, but now you got to do the work of applying it in a way that makes it more usable, practical, and valuable. And that work always lies in our laps. So I want to encourage you to be the scientist in your life. I'm not trying to confuse you and say, look, success principles are bonk. Don't give them any stock. No, definitely use them, but use them in the context that puts you at the center of the universe to where you could see how they apply to your life, because now they become something that you can use instead of something that uses you. We don't have to be trapped by that idea. So as scientists of our life, we have to be okay with running the experiment because nobody can tell us how our experiment is going to go. We have to apply the scientific method and pay attention through the power of intention. Intention. I am intentionally changing a variable and applying this principle to my life to figure out something about myself that's going to help me to move forward or to improve my life or the life of those that I love and lead. The principle is true, and I'm here to just apply it in the context that makes sense for me. That's what it means to lead your story and not allow your story to lead you. So while only 1 to 5% of people actually benefit and grow and are empowered by success principles, and the secret there is that they apply it to their lives in constructive ways, contextually taking the parts they need, bending and breaking the others, and figuring out their own principles. So we can stand on the shoulders of giants like David Melser, who, by the way, I'm not saying is wrong in any way. I'm telling you, I love him. But we always have to do the due diligence of applying the principle to our life, because physical principles are right and true every single day in every single way. But success principles, the principles that govern our lives, there's always context, nuance, and a bit of authorship that is required to make that story work, to make it stick. So it's not you. It's not the principles. It's the strategy. Become more self-aware and apply it in a way that makes sense for you. And I promise you, those principles will help you to write your next chapter. I'm out. Hey fam, thanks again for joining me in the yellow chair. I want to invite you to go even deeper, to take this to the next level by pulling out your phone and texting me at 800-425-2095. That's 800-425-2095. That's my direct number. Type in the word yellow chair. And when you text me, you'll be joining my X Factor weekly insider community where I send out resources to help you to continue to storify your life and to lead your story. So don't miss that opportunity. 800-425-2095. Thanks again for joining me here in the yellow chair. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share these podcasts. We're trying to change 100 million people's lives, and you're a part of that. So thank you again, and I see you in the next yellow chair. I'm out.